Yo, JD here, Limitless, and as you can see, not back on F1 2020, because you may recognize by this intro, we are back on one of the best F1 games I've ever played. This is F1 2013, and I did a video recently around the Nürburgring that I absolutely loved doing because it brought back some very, very good memories. And this race was a mixture of one that I was proud of, but you'll be able to see at some points very, very devastating, because I feel like it's a good time to share this kind of video. And on my channel, it'd be easy to upload always the best moments that I've done and the best races and getting a world record all the time and stuff as well. But again, I think the whole point of the reason why I love doing this so much, and I've continued it for so long and hopefully for many years to come, is because I want to show people that life isn't really a fairy tale. And it's the same for league racing as well. Like, you could be on such a good momentum, and momentum, as I said, is a very, very powerful thing, because good momentum yields a big increase in confidence. And that's what you need. That's the difference, really, a lot of the time. That's the difference between executing at that by half a tenth or a tenth or not, and your race completely flipping on its side. And at the start of this game, or the start of 2020, was a fantastic start for me. I had 3 wins in a row in TSRL. I'm getting podiums all the time in WR and stuff as well, and it was great. And I still feel as good as I did then, but even with the speeds, you need that momentum behind you, and I definitely have not had that momentum recently. But the thing is, like with life as well, which I keep going back to, whenever you're on an up, it's always going to come down, but whenever you're on a down, it's always going to go back up again. So life is really like a roller coaster, and I just want to say to people who are in the same position, who have races at the moment where they feel have the pace to win and everything, but nothing is just clicking whatsoever, then to always keep faith, because it will turn around at some point. And I had that for a spell on last game as well, and then it turned around extremely well. So all the bad fortune can't last forever, and soon enough your speed will prevail. But this is a little flashback to Season 8 of AOR, and this was a huge race at the time. Very, very significant, because the championship standings were Matty G, I think, was about 10 points ahead of me in the championship at this stage, because I had my fair of disconnections already. I think I had 3 disconnections before this round, and all the other races I pretty much won or came second in. So this is a very big moment for me in this race. Spa, I remember practicing for this race like 5 socials in 1 week or something like that, and I had a pretty good qualifying. Broziak was very, very good at qualifying, and pretty much similar to that some people to this day I race with, they are extremely good on the quali pace, but then in the race they're just not as consistent, which always baffles me, how someone can be so good and so consistent over a lap, but then in the race. But for me, I always find the race much more comfortable, where you don't have to be pushing 100%, but pushing 90% and doing it consistently. That's something I'm good at, but you can see I've locked up straight away to here, and I've lost a position, and now I've lost another position to my championship rival, Matty G, who, as you saw at the Nürburgring, he is very, very good on this game. Very, very good. He wasn't a great qualifier, but he was always very consistent in the race and very good race speed. So yeah, he was really, really good. And you can see going out wide here, track limits. We didn't have strict track limits on 2013 back in these days. It was just really, you couldn't take the mick with cutting, but it's nowhere near as strict as it is now. And to be honest, I actually didn't mind that, because it was just all about the racing, and it was about where you finished on track most of the time. And of course, some people could take the mick with track limits to a degree on some corners, but most of the time it was the fastest man who came out on top, and it was just pure racing. And there wasn't many bugs or glitches in this game, but there were a few issues, which you will see at some point here. But you can see Broziak, I think. Well, I'm not sure it was Broziak. I think that was Rosberg who went straight on, because him and Matty G have actually come together here. And this is so important because around here, strategy is so key. And most of these races in 2013, in the 50% race, was 2 or 3 stops. And I think around here it is going to be the 2 stop. But I've got a very good run on my teammate going up through over Radillon, I think it's called. And we're going to get a very, very good run. No DRS yet. And I think Matt G, see in the wing mirror, he's actually slowing down to let Rosberg back past as I make an overtake on Broziak. And then he actually goes in deep. And we've got Fizzy Fan right next to me. So he goes very, very tight into it. So I'm going to go for the switchback, going into this downhill corner. And we are trying to reclaim, or not even reclaim, but get into the lead. And we've done it. We've got into the lead. As my teammate has almost gone to last place. Because very respectfully, he actually slowed down. Because I think he actually made contact, the lag bubble with Rosberg in that final chicane on the lap before. And he didn't want to get a penalty from that. So very, very sporting from X-Mag. And I have to say, he was always very, very clean and very fair when he was racing. So incredible natural talent. Even when I've seen him on the wheel, he hasn't paid it that much. I think he could be very, very good if he did put some time into it. But right now, this is going absolutely perfect for me, because in this position, I would actually retake the championship lead, and by some margin as well, by like 15 points or something like that. But you can see Broziak is coming, I'm coming under attack from him a little bit. So he's going to think about going down the inside, but decides to think a little bit better of it. And now, on this game, I felt like in the race, I definitely just had that little bit extra than a lot of people on the grid. If I could get into a lead and get a good quali, then usually I would be driving away in this race. And you can already see we've gained the traction and set the fastest lap in succession as well. And you can see no arrow behind us at this point, going for Eau Rouge and Radillon. And we're going to use our curse button now, which is pretty similar to the overtake, but I actually prefer the curse function. And the great thing about this game as well is that you could actually set your own gear ratio. So I always had a left to right formation, as Broziak has gone completely straight on, I think. Or I'm not sure what happened there. Him and Ricky C. Ricky C has now actually passed him now, so he did go straight on. But going back to the gear ratios, you could really set it so if you wanted a better top end speed. But for me, I always had it where I'd be hitting the rev limiter quite quickly, but my acceleration would be very, very good. It's kind of like running a sprocket on a kart, a go-kart. If anyone's done go-karting, you know what I'm talking about. I always went for just that pure acceleration. But the only thing is, it would leave me a little bit vulnerable at the end of the straight. But if they're not in my DRS, then I'd pretty much be going the same speed as everyone else. And you can see we're going purple once again, and already a second out of this window. And you can see on their minimap, they are really starting to battle very, very hard. And this is going absolutely perfect for me, and pretty much a repeat of what I've done at other races so far this season, where I qualify near the front, I get into the lead, and then just start to drive away. And we have set another new fastest lap of a race of 148.7. And I think the pole time, I think I almost got pole with a 144.7. On F1 2020, the speed is like a 1:40 now. So it shows how much faster the game and the cars really have come in this time. But coming towards the end of lap 4, still extending that gap right now with the bright orange helmet that I've got on. And I think some people have pitted. I think Broziak has gone into the pits because the undercut is quite powerful around here. But you can see still relatively close to our fastest lap. So the speed is absolutely insane. The gap is almost 2 seconds now to Ricky C. And I believe I'm going to be pitting this lap, going on to the prime tyre. So nice and easy. See how different the MFD and the HUD is. But to be honest, I absolutely love this game. This game was just about pure racing. And yeah, some bits were quite unrealistic. Like coming into here, it was a completely automated pits, which no, actually looks quite cool. As we go exit here now, got held ever so slightly, I think, by the Toro Rosso of Leobot here, who is still racing to this day, I believe. But coming out the pits here, having the freshest tyres out of everyone who's pitted, and I think that is Broziak in P3 behind Ricky C, and that has worked out very, very nicely. Rosberg did pit the lap before, but tyres was just so crucial, and I think they were quite scripted on this game as well. If you had a lap fresher tyres, you would just be going so much faster at the end of the stint as well. And I think I will be uploading another race at Malaysia in Season 8, because that was probably the best example of how OP these tyres are. And you can see the gap is about 1.7 to Broziak now, so we're going to keep an eye on that gap. And Ricky C has got repassed, but now I'm coming up to a little bit of traffic here, so having to manage this very, very nicely. And we do it 48.3, which isn't the fastest lap, because I think Rosberg did quite a quick lap. But you can see the gap is now 3 seconds behind, because they are starting to battle. And this is perfect when you're in a net position, a net P1 position, and the P2, P3 are really battling behind you, and you have fresher tyres. That really isn't... You can't really get a better scenario than that. So at this stage, I was feeling very, very nice. I even got the DRS on the cars ahead as well, which just even more beneficial for me. But I'm coming up to Trace Me, who was a very good friend of Matty G's, and I think the Living Dead up ahead. But I have to get past these guys relatively quickly, because the pace difference is quite substantial at this point, and I could be losing a lot of time to the guys behind. And see, coming up to them very, very quickly, going into Puon now, quite crucial. They get past him quickly, so we've got so much more grip at this point here. And I think he's still on the option tyre, Trace Me as well. So going into this corner, he goes in a little bit deep, so we see an opportunity to go around the outside, and we go off track a little bit. And I think if that was on F1 2020, we probably would have had to give that position back. But on this game, the rules are a lot more lenient than they are on that, and we're using the rest of our cars to try and get up to Living Dead, try and get into that DRS zone, put it back down to standard. But yeah, my car was very, very quick in a straight line, and running off track again, that probably would have been an illegal, well, not illegal, but an invalidation. Going into here, very, very pointy going to this corner. Living Dead is still deciding to stay out, as Trace Me has pitted now. And let's see what the gap is to Broziak behind. The gap is now 2.2 seconds. So you can see how much we've lost time, and Living Dead, we actually make a little bit of contact with him on the exit of turn 1 as well. So you can see how much time it's costing, and he actually sets the fastest lap whilst he does that. So it's crucial that I get past Living Dead right here, right now. And I don't think I'm going, well, I am going to use a little bit of curves, but I'm thinking about maybe trying to save time, but no, I'm not. I'm actually just going to use all of it, because I need to get past, because I actually think he's trying to defend this position. So trying to get relatively as close as I can back on the racing line, gained a bit of time on Broziak behind, and now he is probably going to catch him towards the end of this lap. But moving on to lap 14, we have just increased this gap even more, setting a 48.0, and the gap is about 4 seconds. I think Broziak had pitted the lap before this, and that just shows how vulnerable these tyres actually are. And I think, yeah, this is going to be, I think this might be my final stop of the race, I think it is. So it's going to be a 2-stop race, coming into the pit lane, very, very close to that pit wall. But Ricky C, you know, the guy who's really the main threat to me, because he's going to be in the same freshness as tyres. So if I come out ahead of Broziak, it's been held again, I think. So even back in these days, things just didn't really work out for me in the pit stop too well. But let's see where Broziak is, who I think is coming across the line now. And we're definitely going to have a fairly big advantage. And towards the end of the stint, as it showed there, we just have so much pace. It's really, really good. And then I think I'm going to show you some raw laps here, because this is where I was probably at my pad peak right now. And you can see Living Dead's actually in P2, and then it's Rosberg in P3. And I have fresher tyres than all of them. So let's see what the gap is now, coming through into here. And it's about 2.3 seconds. Broziak in a P3 behind him, so you've got about a 3-second gap to him. So right now, it is just working absolutely awesome. So coming across the line here, we do 47.1, and I think we are going to go for a very, very fast lap. Didn't get an extra point for fastest lap in these days. Now you can see the gap has gone up to about 4.4 seconds and about almost 5 seconds between myself and Broziak. So right now, life is very, very good, and this is exactly the position you want to be when you're in the lead, where you have the fuel, you have the pace, you have the freshest tyres, and really at this stage, this is where you want to be enjoying yourself. And that's what I was doing on this lap here. I'm really just trying to show my domination in the fastest lap that I can do. You can see that gap is going up all the time, so it's about 4.8 seconds if I can read it right. You can see that big train behind me. That's what you want to get out of. And no, in league racing, it's so important nowadays that if you're near the front, you can just get out of that squabble, because it is just so hard to overtake. Compared to this game was relatively easy to overtake on. But going into the very fast right-hander, this is a very good lap so far. And yeah, I'd say at this stage, no, although it doesn't look absolutely perfect, the game was still very hard to play on the controller. And no, it's just going absolutely great. So we're improving our lap time quite substantially. You can see Broziak, I think, it must have gone off somewhere. So the gap is now 5.7 seconds, I think, to Ricky C. And again, this is just fueling my confidence. And I said at the beginning of this video, confidence gives you that extra tenth or 2 tenths. And I was just driving such a good rhythm. Coming across the line, it's going to be a 46.1, where the pole lap was a 44.7. And on these prime tyres, that's a very fast lap. And I think when people saw that, they probably thought, oh my word, that is absolutely crazy. Because even in practice, I wasn't doing that kind of lap time. That is a pretty crazy lap. Although it doesn't look that difficult, I can assure you, and I think a lot of people who did play 2013, that is very hard to do. So I was definitely at my peak of my pad powers right now, and we'll just go keep an eye on this gap even more. The gap is about, I think it's about 6 seconds now, if I can see. When I'm editing, it's really hard to see, and especially this quality as well. This video quality is not going to be 1080 60 FPS because we didn't have that back then. So it's definitely not going to look as good, but it certainly felt very good to play. And going through here into Pion, a very tricky corner, having to do a little downshift into there, as Maisie has destroyed his car, which is not good. And it was always quite funny when that message did come up, but I think he wasn't my teammate, and lost connection to Maisie. And that's very important because Maisie is the host of this lobby, so I think he is rage quit from there, which is really disappointing to him. The gap is staying the same between myself and Ricky C, but a very comfortable gap with just over 3 laps to go. No, I think it's going to take an absolute miracle for me not to win this race, because it's very hard to crash around here. And going across the line again, it's going to be a 46.8, so still be relatively consistent, but the tyres do drop off at some point. But coming out through this turn 1, we're going to go once again, and a very good exit coming off here now, and the gap is about 6.3 seconds, so everything is still working very nicely. And I just wanted to showcase as much of this race as possible, because I just really missed this game, because I feel this was probably, although the handling of the new game is great and I absolutely love it, as we're going faster again, I just felt this was probably the most complete F1 game in terms of not as many bugs or anything like that, where you could just jump on, just race. And the sprint mode feature where you just be thrown into a random lobby with a 3-lapper, it was just absolutely awesome. It was like the days when I used to play Call of Duty 4 and stuff like that. I used to come home and I used to just really look forward to playing this game. And anyone who missed out on it, I can tell you now, you really did miss out, because it was absolutely awesome. And league racing was just so fun to do. But at the moment, we're still driving very hard. I think Ricky C does have the same tyre freshers as me, as we are improving ever so slightly as well. So the pace is still looking incredibly good. And you can see the gap is now 7.1 seconds. So we are increasing this gap quite a lot and got over a 10-second gap to Brozak behind. So we've got about 2 laps of this race to go. And this race has been nothing but pure perfection so far. And going across the line is going to be a 46.7. The delta is always against your last lap, not your best lap. So the times are still very consistent. 2 laps to go. Everything is looking super smooth, even increasing the gap even more. But then coming underneath the sign, that just shows when everything can go perfect, everything can go wrong as well. But I just wanted to do this video to really give hope to people who are going through a bad time, even like myself and currently racing. Always persevere, because whenever things go down, they can always come back up, and they will come back up as well. So thank you so much for supporting my channel. It means the world to me. It really does. Thank you so much, and I'll catch you soon. Peace.